Good evening, all. Welcome to the Chattanooga Mayoral Candidate Forum for Climate and Energy. I'm Sandy Kurtz. I will be moderating this evening with the assistance of Aaron Perry, our Tennessee Interfaith Power and Light intern in Nashville. We also appreciate Brandy Pruitt of Tennessee Environmental Council for the use of their Zoom link. First, a few instructions. By now, most of you are familiar with Zoom, but for those who are not, there are buttons all around your screen where you can adjust the look of your screen to see all of us or only the speaker or none of us, and arrange both sound and whether we can see you or not. Unless you are a candidate, you will at all times be muted unless a host unmutes you. We will likely not have any time for questions and answers this evening, but should you have one, please click on the chat icon and place it there. Our candidates can attend to these later if you leave your contact information. And candidates, please place your contact information in the chat box as well if you wish to be contacted. Surely, I don't have to remind all of you to be respectful and polite. The forum is sponsored by Chattanooga Climate, Tennessee Interfaith Power and Light, and Sierra Club-Cherokee Group, and the Tennessee Environmental Council. This gathering is also on the Tennessee Environmental Council Facebook page. We are recording in case you want to see us all again. TEC will send out that link for you. And now to get on with the reason for this forum. We want to hear what each candidate can do around sustainability and environment should he or she be elected. This will help us make up our minds about who gets our votes. Members of our environmental network feel that discussions about environment often get short shrift in campaigns. And yet, with climate change impacts already happening, this is likely to be the umbrella issue our next mayor will have to address in the search for that quality of ecosystem support that we all seek. In preparation for the forum, we invited all 15 mayoral candidates to attend. We then sent 3 questions to the 10 candidates who accepted our invitation. One candidate could not be with us tonight, but has sent in answers that will be read to you. Here are the questions. Number 1, there are a number of possible strategies to address the climate crisis in Chattanooga. These include renewables, energy efficiency, greening businesses, land use, stormwater, and waste reduction. What would you prioritize and how would you implement your plan? The second question, how would you redesign our transportation system to reduce carbon emissions, increase electric vehicles, and make public transportation accessible to all? And number 3, how would your climate and energy plan ensure that underserved communities benefit? So tonight, each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. Aaron will be timing you. You'll hear a sound from her when the time is up. We will go in alphabetical order to answer the first question, in reverse order to the second question, and back in alphabetical order for the third. I will repeat the question as needed for each round. The candidates present are Monty Brule, Christopher Dahl, Wade Hinton, Tim Kelly, Christopher Long, George Ryan Love, Andrew McLaren, and Eleanor Woods. Kim White sends apologies, and we will read her answers. Now, before we start on answering the specific questions, I want to give each candidate 1 minute to introduce themselves. You ready? So let's begin with Eleanor. Eleanor. Go ahead. Oh, she's muted. Wait a minute.
Okay, there we go. Hi, I'm Dr. Eleanor Woods, and I'm a native of Chattanooga, and I have a big, strong interest in environmental issues, as I've been on the forefront with this issue in Chattanooga, especially Alton Park community. Thank you all for hosting me here tonight. I have a lot of things to share. And so thank you again for inviting me. I'm looking forward to the event tonight.
Now let's go to, I lost my alphabet here. Andrew.
Hi, my name is Andrew McLaren. Thank you so much for having me.
Can't hear you, Andrew. Speak up a little.
Our campaign is
We still can't hear, we're still having trouble hearing you. I know where your microphone is. No, we can't hear you. Let's see if we can get that figured out. We'll come back to you. If that'll work. George Ryan Love. What a good name.
Thank you. Well, George Matthew was my father. I am the third son, George Ryan Love. Okay. I run for Congress 2016, County Mayor 2018. I believe climate change is a big issue. We've had more and more devastating storms, i.e. the Category 3 tornado that ravaged East Brainerd, my brother's neighborhood. So as a working class person, I understand a lot of the issues facing working class. I have a poli-sci degree and education degree. As far as public transportation goes, I ride the bus every day. So I talk to bus drivers and have a lot of good ideas how to make the transportation system we have better now while we transition to high-speed trans.
Okay. Dr. Long? Unmute.
I'm Chris Long. How are you? Glad to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I have a lot of environmental issues that I'd like to discuss, and this is a proper forum to do that. Sandy, you know, we've been around each other for several years now. You know that I'm in for the cause here with all the testing I've done with the South Chickamauga Creek waterways, my passion for getting us compliant with the consent decree on a level playing field with the EPA, get us off the consent decree. That's my main focus, to get done as soon as possible. I'm predicting I can have that done in 3 years, and we'll be 100% compliant with that. And then we need to take and work with you guys, with the development community. You're going to have to be with our administration in some form or fashion, because we have to get this the only way we can do this, working together and moving forward. Somebody muted me. Did I talk too long? Hello? Anybody there?
Andy?
I think we lost Sandy here.
I think we lost Sandy. Well, maybe I'll just pick someone to go next, if that's all right. Wade Hinton, if you'd like to introduce yourself next.
Sure. Well, thank you so much. And good evening, everyone. Thank you for hosting this. I'll tell you, I am a native of Chattanooga, born and raised in a community called the West Side, and left for school, but came back. And I've been practicing law for about 20 years. 5 of those years I spent working as a city attorney under Mayor Burke in the city council. I also spent time in senior leadership roles with 2 of our largest employers here. So I'm bringing both the public and private sector experience as I run for this office, but have had lots of exposure to important environmental issues. In fact, when I was at Volkswagen, was one of the lead counsels to help with the solar farm, which is one of the largest private, privately owned solar farms in the state. So I continue to work on these projects. And again, for me, this issue is just not environmental climate. This is a justice issue. So I'm looking forward to the conversation tonight, and I'm glad to be with my friends here tonight. Thanks.
Next, Christopher Dahl.
Yeah, my name's Christopher Dahl, and I'm 38 years old. And although I'm not a Chattanooga native, I consider myself to be one because I've lived here so long. And even though I've moved away a few times, I keep on finding myself coming back to Chattanooga. I have a passion and a love for the city to the point where I've created a historical site called Chattanooga Has History. And so, you know, I'm just running because I see a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse in our city's government, and I want to try to fight to rid it from all that.
Thank you, Christopher. Monty Burrell, have you gone yet?
I have not, and neither has Mr. Kelly. I think we're the only two who have not gone yet.
Mr. Kelly, would you like to go next?
Certainly, why not?
Thank you.
And my name is Tim Kelly. I grew up here in Chattanooga. I went away for 4 years to school in New York and then came back. And I've been here for the last 32 years, both working in the small business world and in the nonprofit world. And look, I think sustainability is at the core of what makes Chattanooga great and what makes it a unique city. As a private business owner, you know, I used my own money to construct a remodel of our Subaru facility that was LEED certified, and you know, put a whole solar array on the roof to cover the electricity demand. Been on the board of the Trust for Public Land, and my commitment to this work is real. I'll put our plan in the chat, but the core of what I'm really trying to do here is neighborhood development, shift focus back from neighborhoods to green spaces. We can get into it more, but also education. Education is a big issue for me as well.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Monty Burrell, if you'd like to go next.
Thank you very much. I'm Monty Brule, and I want to be your mayor. I have to say that as I come to you tonight, my heart is heavy because I'm really disappointed in the decision of the district attorney, Neil Pinkston, to not prosecute the 5 sheriff's deputies who beat Reginald Arrington as he was handcuffed with his hands behind his back. I raise this issue because social justice is an important component of sustainability. We will never have a sustainable Chattanooga unless we have a Chattanooga that has justice. So that is an important component that I think should be on the table tonight. I'm happy to be here because I remember being a child in Alton Park with asthma, smelling fumes from Velsicol chemical and the other plants in the area, and watching my mother scramble around to find someone with a car to take me to the emergency room in the middle of the night because I was having an asthma attack. And unfortunately, Alton Park still has toxins. There are still pollutants there. And I'm excited to talk about the climate, the environment, and sustainability because we need to do something. Those kids shouldn't have to live in the same conditions that I lived in 40 or 50 years ago.
Thank you, Mr. Brule. Sorry, I'm from Nashville. I wish I had known how to pronounce your name before.
Oh, no problem.
Mr. McLaren, do you want to try again with your mic? I'm so sorry, we can't hear you. Perhaps if you write us a message in the chat, I could read something for you a little bit later. Well, I think unless Sandy gets back on, we can go ahead and get started with some of the questions. So I will be sending the questions in the chat, but I'll go ahead and read the first question again, just so you all can hear it again. And then I believe that we'll start with Mr. Brule. So question number 1, there are a number of possible strategies to address the climate crisis in Chattanooga. These include renewables, energy efficiency, greening businesses, land use, stormwater, and waste reduction. What would you prioritize, and how would you implement your plan? So while you aren't speaking, try and stay muted, and I will go ahead and start the timers for y'all. So Mr. Burrell, you can go first.
Thank you very much. I'm going to just focus on a couple of things because, you know, this is one of those subjects where we can't just do 3 or 4 things. It's probably, you know, doing 30, 40, 50 things. First of all, as mayor of Chattanooga, I recognize that environmental issues don't respect geographic boundaries. So one of the things that I'm going to do is reach out to the mayors of Memphis, Nashville, and Knoxville to form a coalition so that we can address environmental and climate issues that extend beyond our borders, because some of these problems require action at the state level, and it's going to take the 4 mayors of our major cities acting in concert with one another. So that is a coalition that I think will be very powerful. Next, I was really surprised to find that the quality of the water in the Tennessee River and the tributaries that run into the river really aren't very good. And as I've researched the subject, I've really learned a lot about how we can decrease stormwater runoff, which is a major contributor to the poor quality of the water. So the city of Chattanooga is the largest owner of impervious surfaces in Chattanooga. So we've got to look at finding alternative product to pave our streets and to reduce stormwater runoff. Next, I think if we use native plants that have deep root systems that can filter the runoff and filter toxins from the soil, that would be a huge deal. So I plan to work with organizations such as Wild Ones here in Chattanooga to make sure that the city, landscapers, and homeowners are planting more native plants. And that is another way that we can greatly reduce our stormwater runoff and improve the quality of water in the Tennessee River and its tributaries.
Thank you, Mr. Brule. Next, I believe we have Mr. Dahl.
He's muted.
Mr. Dahl, you are currently muted. So sorry. I know he mentioned earlier that he was also on a second call, so maybe we will come back to him in just a moment. Mr. Hinton, would you like to go next?
Sure, and thank you for this. Again, I'm glad we're raising this important topic. So I know as a city, we've seen a lot of great progress over this past decade, certainly a reduction in our carbon footprint, but we're also the 6th fastest warming city in the country. And so we've seen also a worsening in our air quality and extreme weather events. And so we first have to acknowledge too that, as I mentioned, that this is not just a climate issue or an energy issue, it's a social justice issue. And we know that it's playing out in Black and brown communities in a way that's impacting us. And that's why, for me, I applaud the work that Green Spaces is doing and the many stakeholders who have contributed to our community sustainability plan. And so as mayor, I'll use that as part of our framework to create change here in our city around sustainability. One of the first things we should do, though, as mayor, as the city, is to invest in renewables. Again, I mentioned the work I did while at Volkswagen to assist in creating a large solar farm. I think we can continue to do that as a city. We have plenty of opportunities. We see what the work we're doing out at Moccasin Bend. But more than that, I'm going to advocate for more of our community partners to do the same. The second thing is the Better Building Challenge was certainly a great first step. But what you'll see from us is that we're going to be even more aggressive in reducing energy consumption from city-owned buildings. And again, with the city serving as a model, look for us to double down our support to call for more energy efficiency at home and buildings. So we're not only shrinking our carbon footprint, but we're also creating high quality green jobs. And then lastly, we have to support and create more green infrastructure like parks and greenways and open spaces. When I was a city attorney, you can look at, in fact, Lupton City Mill site is a great example. When I was city attorney, we actually got that property from the owners, and now it's going to be a green space. There are plenty of other city-owned properties that could follow that path, and know that we're looking forward to working with many others to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hinton. Mr. Dahl, if you would like to go next.
Yeah, I'd like to start off. My priority would be with trying to get us out of the EPA consent decree. For one, we pay many taxes and fees disguised as taxes, or fees disguised as taxes to address some of these issues, such as the stormwater fee. The city needs to also look into adopting more green infrastructure projects, and also having the regional planning agency adopt low impact development guidelines. You know, a couple years back, the city did a stormwater study in 2017. And what that did was the study pertained to having stormwater in lieu fees or stormwater credit banking and trading, which allowed developers, instead of retaining the water, to pay a fee to get around that. They also reduced the stormwater retention qualifications that had to be carried out by a developer. So we need to look at readopting the EPA guidelines that pertain to that. We also need to look into getting more, adopting the EPA standards on steep slope development and floodplain development. All of these things would be a part of a restructure of the city's community and economic development center, as well as the regional planning agency if I was elected mayor. I'd also like to see the city adopt a solar light initiative to where we could, you know, have lighting even on our darkest blocks, because a lot of the times we have a lot of dark corners and crime that seems to happen on our streets that are dark, and it creates dangerous streets. So I think we need to look at addressing these issues first and foremost.
Thank you, Mr. Dahl. Sandy, we're still on question 1.
I'm back.
And Mr. Kelly should be up next.
Okay. Did we?
You ready for me?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not sure which way we're going here.
Look, I think sustainability, as I said in my introduction, is really at the core of what Chattanooga is and what makes Chattanooga special and differentiates from other cities. And it's why a lot of people come to Chattanooga and stay in Chattanooga. I put our sustainability framework on the chat, and it was the first one we did. We've gotten a lot of working groups together to discuss this sort of thing. And it was the very first one we did because I thought it was the primary building block for everything that came afterwards. I'll give you a little bit of an overview. Look, I think it starts with using land more efficiently. I think we've got a great opportunity to convert abandoned railways to pedestrian paths. Matt Lyle's project, the East Line project, is a great example. I would want to do more of that. The city's got 1,000 properties in a land bank here they're sitting unused. Some of those can be easily converted to urban gardens. And you know, that we don't have enough of that in Chattanooga. A lot of cities do. It's an easy thing to do. I would promote farmers markets and local food hubs. In private business, I let the farmers market now use the back parking lot at Chattanooga Brewing Company because I believe in that and I want to promote that more. Good urban design is critical here, right? The best thing we can do is to reduce the carbon footprint is to have good walkable neighborhood design. So that's an important part of it. Conserving the mature tree canopy here is also super important. Keeping on the forestry department at the city. As far as wastewater and watersheds go, look, and everybody's hit on this already. We've got to clamp down on the consent decree and handle this. I would merge the city and the county wastewater system and look at a long-term approach to stuff. Ride-sharing electrifications are a big part of this, and pushing for higher energy efficiency in city-owned buildings. That's part of my plan. So there's some simple things we can do to increase efficiency that also save businesses money, like we did at my Subaru store. And then finally, we would reduce waste and try to reduce our waste stream and really go back and look at our recycling program again, because I don't think anybody's particularly happy with that.
Okay. I've lost track of just who has spoken and who hasn't. Aaron, is Mr. Hinton spoken?
Yes.
Yes.
So we'll go in alphabetical order from here.
So it's Chris Long now. Okay.
Thank you for having me. We're going to have to get down to taking care of this consent decree. That's the #1 priority. We got to have sustainability, and we got to do this. We're going to have to get into our regulations again. As bad as I hate to say this, we're going to have to do it. We're going to have to tweak it, do this, because if we do not do that, we lost our window opening for making any kind of affordable housing. We just can't do it. The regulations are not in our favor. So this is the reason why it's important that we get a group like Sandy and the Environmental Coalition to work with the developers, AGC, sit down and think, hash this out, because let you guys do what you do, come up with this type of thing. Let the builders do what they do, come up with an affordable way of doing it. And we can get a lot more done, filling this back and forth. As far as combining with Hamilton County, WWTA, and City of Chattanooga, no way I would ever consider to do that. No, it wouldn't work. We got to keep it just the way it is, because the city is the one that will have the biggest impact. County can do their own thing. But see, when the city gets compliant with the EPA, with the consent decree, majority of the problems go away for the county. I know there's a big takeover. They want to do a big takeover. It's been that way for a long time, just like they wanted to take over the Tennessee American Water Company. We can't be doing that, folks. We got to stay right where we're at, but we got to tweak what we got, because we're going to cut down on our development, and we got to be fair for everybody. And we need to do this not just for downtown. Downtown, we got to keep the momentum going for downtown. We got to keep it growing and like it's doing, but at the regulation, it's got to be fair from one side of the community versus the other, because downtown's exempt from just about all the rain management guide criteria. People don't realize that, but I've done extensive studies trying to figure out where this problem is coming from, and we've come to a solution. Me and Dave Hamill did with AGC. We've been testing the water readily all the time. When we tested when it hadn't rained in about 2 or 3, 4 days, we'll go out there and test the water quality. We're only looking at maybe 75 parts per million. But when we have a 1-inch rain event, we are up at 8,000 parts per million. You cannot swim in that. No way. It's devastating for the fish. But there's some problems too, because of this rain management guide. We have to tweak it. I'm having an environmental impact where I live at right now. My creek back here does not flood where it naturally did, and the wildlife moved from there. So we got to tweak it, because this happened when all the new development come upstream from me. Because we choked off our water to go into our creeks because of what we thought would be a good idea. But Chattanooga region has been naturally flooding for over 1,000 years. And development, if we do it right, will keep a lot of this stuff going on. Not necessarily development is causing a lot of the flooding that we're having going on. But, that's another argument for another day. But we have to get the developers together and the environmental group, and we have to do a comprehensive plan, a long-term strategy, keep with that long-term goal, and work together. That's the only way we can do this. We got to create jobs in the beginning of it, and we got to do affordable housing. If we don't do affordable housing, we're in serious trouble.
Thank you. Mr. Love. You're muted.
Oh, Mr. Love, I thought you said low. Okay. Well, my background comes from the labor rights issue and housing rights. First of all, I understand the need for green spaces, but we have people who don't have homes and food and shelter. I do understand environmental impacts and weather events like the tornado we just had. However, as mayor, there's no way in the world I would choose green spaces over people's houses. We have people who don't have homes, people who don't have shelter. It is a fact, historical, that environmental impacts have ravaged communities with bad wastewater, more and more severe storms, and so on and so forth. But I come from the labor rights point of view. Now, there's no way I want to use any more public space until we have housed and fed all those without homes in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We're in the middle of a pandemic where wage and income inequality, where affordable housing means zero till you address the fact that people unemployed, underemployed, losing jobs, making $10 an hour. So anyone who talks about affordable housing and doesn't realize that so many Chattanoogans are losing income, what's affordable if you have no income, if you live on the streets? Okay, what's the environmental impact of a homeless man in a wheelchair waiting on disability, waiting out in the cold? What's his environmental impact? Now I have asthma, and I understand. And when it comes to investing in communities, there are many inner city communities that are underserved, redlined, and that's a racist part right there. So when it comes to jobs, you need labor rights, healthcare, income, wages, maternity leave, paternity leave. Okay. When we discuss the economy, we need to discuss how we, the people, are doing. Now, my expertise is not in wastewater or waste treatment. True. My expertise is protecting human beings, the tens of thousands of Chattanoogans. Thank you.
Mr. McLaren, it's your turn. You're on mute.
All right, we'll try this one more time. Can you guys hear me?
That's better.
Yes, hallelujah. Okay, first off, there's a Native American quote that I love. We don't inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. We have to focus on sustainability. Tim Kelly's plan tonight, spot on. Also, what Monty said about the 5 officers that got off the deputies, no man deserves to be beaten when he's handcuffed and laying on the ground. It absolutely is a social justice issue, and I'm going to tell you why. When they knocked down the Harriet Tubman housing projects, over 300 families lost their homes. They put a paint factory in a residential area. This is going to contribute to poor air quality. That's how kids get asthma. And Monty talked about him having asthma. This is an outrage. We need to protect our environment. I want to put in a plastic bag tax that's worked in cities all across the country. 10 cents if you want a plastic bag. We have more pieces of plastic in the ocean right now than we do fish. We have to stop this. What are we going to do with the money from the plastic bag tax? We're going to take that money, we're going to put it into early childhood education. We're going to put it into repairing our infrastructure. We have to be bold. I love taking my kids to the state parks. I love taking them to Coolidge Park. I want to plant trees, fruit trees, all over the inner city. It's going to teach kids in the housing projects about horticulture, about nutrition, about sustainability. It's going to help take out CO2 out of the air and put more oxygen out. We have to agree, and we have to encourage. They're saying by 2030, there's going to be mostly electric cars. Volkswagen is getting a massive federal contract for that. We need people in trade schools so that we can get them into these jobs, get them into these electrical jobs, get them into the Nippon paint factory. But as far as the Nippon paint factory deal, I would have ripped that up. I never would have allowed that to happen. And as far as talking about Volkswagen, we want Volkswagen here. But let's not forget that they had a massive emissions scandal that they covered up. It's about transparency, holding companies accountable, not allowing companies to get away with corporate welfare, making them pay that $25 million that they got off with, and taking that money into early childhood education, protecting our environment. I'm all about equality, equity, sustainability. I'm Andrew McLaren. I'm reporting for duty. Let's take our city back for everyday hardworking citizens in Chattanooga. And let's make sure that, yes, we protect our environment. We stop greedy overdevelopment where they're knocking down trees and they're putting 4-story condos up, but there's no new gas stations and lines are getting longer and longer and longer, and people's quality of life is going down. We need to fight for livable wages. We need to stand up against injustice, and we need to build teams, coalitions of the willing, of like-minded individuals who believe in the American dream. And I'm honored and flattered to be invited by your organization tonight. And it's great to see other candidates here who I respect and admire and are putting out a lot of excellent ideas. So thank you so much for having me. Once again, Andrew McLaren, God bless you.
Okay. Thank you. I'm hoping that all of the candidates are learning from each other. And I think this has been a good start here. So Ms. Woods, wind us up on this first question. But you have to unmute first.
All right, thank you. Okay, I don't know if any of you were involved with the Environmental Justice College that I created and was very much involved with the Alton Park Development Corporation. It was a program designed to educate the community about the environmental hazards and all of the symptoms associated with being involved with contaminated soils and water and those kinds of things. I've been involved with environmental justice in Chattanooga since the early 2000s, 1999 and 2000. And I can tell you the environmental justices are real. I fought with the environmental coalition group that made Vesicol plant accountable for all the contaminants that they poured over into the Chattanooga Creek. and all the other plants. I've been involved directly with brownfield projects, partnering with the city and the county and the state to clean up all these contaminated sites. I think, Sandy, you've worked with me in the past with this. We brought EPA into the city of Chattanooga, and we fought against those companies that were violating our air and our land and our water quality. And I will continue to do that. I've lost family members. I know Money Brewer has lived in Alton Park. I have too. I've lived in the West Side, College Hill Court. I was born there. And I've seen environmental injustices in marginalized communities, as well as I've seen environmental injustices kill people in these marginalized communities. And that's where I am very passionate about. I will continue to work with the environmental agencies, including bringing in the EPA and doing what we call self-examinations, where we know where our communities are and where they're not. And the truth of the matter is, whether or not Chattanooga invests in some of these greener practices or not, the country and the world is moving toward what we call green energy. So we either get ahead of this and be on the cutting edge and be proud of what we've done, or either we'll get behind this and then we'll be forced to when the EPA forces us to change the way that we're living. So I would think that one of the things we need to practice on is getting our conversions over from regular energy to greener energies. We know that people that live in marginalized communities have higher light bills than folks that are using the greener energies. And so we need to convert these homes so that the energy prices will come down for these people. And we need to, when we start building new homes, we need to do that with that in mind. We need to build homes that are energy efficient. So the question was, which is the priority? It has to be energy efficiency, number one, and creating greener businesses so that these businesses can help us form what we're trying to form in this city, which is to go green, and then renewables. And of course, the stormwater fee has to be up there high, because we are not we're not doing what we're supposed to do with EPA with our stormwater. So we're going to be in a lot of trouble if we don't do something now, and we must form coalitions to make sure it happens. So Sandra, all the other agencies out there that I've worked with in the past, we're going to form a stronger coalition. We're going to work with the EPA. We're going to come up with the best plan, bring in the best and smartest, brightest people to Chattanooga to help us get there. That's what it's going to take. If we're not professionals in this, then we're going to have to hire professionals to come in and help us get where we're trying to go. That's number one. Recognize that we're not there and that we need help, and that we recruit folks to come here and make that happen. And yes, we have to be honest, we're not there. I look at the creek now. My property sits on about 8 acres of land, and the Chattanooga Creek runs directly through there. It is disgusting. It still has tar in the bottom of the creek. These creeks feed into the river. So whatever's in these contributing creeks go straight to our water that we filter out for drinking. So we've got to take care of those creeks as well. So I would hope that someday we could connect Alton Park, Howard High School area to all of the safe walks that we have and create something really great by cleaning up these creeks. And that's going to be one of my other priorities, making sure that our creeks are safer and that we can add it to the beautification of the city of Chattanooga by cleaning them up.
Okay. Thank you all very much. We are on to our second question. Have I got that right, Aaron? Sorry, suddenly my computer the network just went down on me. I'm glad it didn't happen to all of you.
Don't worry about it. Do you want me to read?
Want to read the second question?
Do you want me to read Kim White's answer to the first
Oh,
question?
yes, sorry, I forgot that. Please.
No worries.
Go ahead.
So Kim White wrote, there are a number of possible strategies to address the climate crisis in Chattanooga. These include renewables, energy efficiency, greening businesses, land use, stormwater, and waste reduction. What would you prioritize? And how would you implement your plan? Efficient city government is fundamental to my vision. We will continue to work to lower use of energy and emissions by monitoring energy consumption at city buildings and working toward greater efficiency of the city's fleet. Stewardship of our natural resources through less energy use is good environmental policy and good fiscal policy.
Okay. You read the question first, so you don't. In her next answer. So question 2, how would you redesign our transportation system to reduce carbon emissions, increase electric vehicles, and make public transportation accessible to all? And so now we are going in backwards. Are we on the backwards part of that? Which means Ms. Woods gets to go again.
Okay.
That's the
So,
question 2.
yeah, okay. All right. So the first thing we need to do is to invest in greener infrastructure like buildings, for example, and more electronic or electric vehicles, charging stations. They're not only good for the environment, but it'll also help boost tourism. And the reason why it'll help boost tourism is that people that are traveling through Chattanooga will be able to stop. They'll want to stop in Chattanooga, adding of tolls. We can do that. I've made that suggestion before. How can we get more funds into the city? One is to add tolls. It'll help incentivize people to use public transportation to reduce vehicle emissions and traffic, and also help us collect money from commuters who use our roads and pollute our air so that we can invest it back into improving our city. We also want to invest in public transportation. Again, this helps reduce traffic and emission as well, and provides good jobs. It'll provide good jobs for many people, and it'll be an affordable way to travel around in the city and get to work, shopping, etc. So these are things that we need to consider. And I really like traveling to the big cities and using their transportation system. It's convenient, it's easy, and it does help cut back on emissions. And so that's something that Chattanooga need to really consider. And as your mayor, this is one of the things that we will start off investigating and looking into and actually implementing.
Thank you. Andrew McLaren, your turn.
All right, how are we doing? Can we hear me again? Okay, great. Carter, I want to get more bus stops for Carter to make sure that everybody can get to their jobs, to make sure that people can avoid food deserts and actually get to good, nutritious food. We need to put a lot more stops in. I've heard Dr. Wood's idea about the toll. I've considered that. I think it's interesting. I would want to analyze it. I don't want to create a lot of traffic jams, and I don't want to discourage people from coming to Chattanooga because of the tolls. But I definitely think it's worth looking into. I also want to put a trolley system in that I think is going to be very trendy and get tourists in and get them excited. Have like an old-fashioned trolley. My friend owns the wine train. It's a big hit. It's a 1926 train that goes all over Chattanooga, and that's a big hit. Things like that. We need to make bicycle riding, public transportation more accessible and more cool, because people don't want to do it. But we need people to do it because we need to reduce the carbon emissions. We can't carpool right now, obviously, because of COVID. And I know that a lot of people are hesitant to get on the buses because of social distancing. But once this pandemic dies down, we really need to encourage people to get back onto CARTA and to go out to their jobs and go to their places, because we are killing the environment with CO2 emissions. I'm also all for cars going to electric. And I think that that's the way of the future. It's the way to get us off of fossil fuels. It's going to get us away from foreign oil as well. So this makes sense. And I'm happy that Volkswagen is going in that direction. And that's something where we can get a lot of people jobs if we can get them in trade school to learn how to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's time for George Ryan Love.
Well, I actually ride the buses every day, and it's a little more complicated than this. First of all, buses are free at the point of use. However, they have reduced routes to just a Saturday schedule. And what that has done, it has cut off parts of the segment of Chattanooga. So as an actual bus rider, I've got some really great insight. One, it's freezing in the middle of winter, so we need a bus hub downtown, and they keep selling off every space we got to developers. As a non-developer, as a working class person, that's the first thing we need to do. I mean, with what we have right now, okay? And then the times cut off early at night, especially on Sundays when I'm walking out late at night when it's freezing out there. So first of all, we need to bring back the schedules as they were pre-COVID levels and expand those where all buses run 7 days a week, okay? As a bus rider, I'm like a firsthand knowledge. Okay, a second, while we're building the new bus hub, while we're bringing buses back to pre-COVID runs, okay? So they're free at the point of use. They have a 10-person capacity, okay? Not including the driver, okay? So we do need more bus stops. We do need more time across the street because I walk and I don't get around very well. So we do need safer pedestrian areas. And as the mayor and someone who actually rides the bus, I have firsthand knowledge. I talk to the drivers. I know it's needed. We do need the bus hub downtown. That's the first thing we need to do to make our car system work better, because they have to use the bathroom on the road or like stop at this gas station or whatever. It's hard on the drivers. It's hard on the people downtown. Okay, moving to all electric transit, the auto industry, kind of killed that a long time ago. So while as the mayor who rides the bus, I will work with CARTA to actually build the bus up, put more stops out there, and also they want vaccine and they want testing for the drivers because we frontline workers too. So we have to protect our drivers. Okay, while we are making improvements to CARTA, and I'm only one of the people actually rides the bus, so you can talk about it until you actually have to ride them yourself and rely on them to go to work. So I have firsthand knowledge about that. Also, while we're doing that, yes.
Time.
Oh, that's your 2 minutes. Just if you could wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, while we're making improvements to CARTA, we will then begin construction on the high-speed rail transit. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Long. You're muted.
Yes, traffic is a big concern. We got to sit there and do a study on this. We need to synchronize our red lights a little bit more efficiently. And yes, like Mr. Love said, that we need to, for right now, we need to work with Carter Bus to change the schedule up and make that a little bit more affordable. But we got to keep in perspective here. Are we wanting our city to grow? The reason why I'm saying that is if we're going to get commerce, get our dollars coming in our community where we can afford to do these type programs that we're talking about, we have to really figure out how we're going to do this. And we got to do a balancing act with the environment and stuff like this. All right, point in question. See, what I'm talking about is there's a corporation that's coming out with called Skytran. It's revolutionary. I mean, these guys are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on research on this. It's coming. I would entertain that idea for them for a test model from Atlanta Airport to Chattanooga Airport. The reason why is Atlanta's running out of airspace, and they would want to do domestic flights out of Chattanooga, and they would have 4,000 people coming in here a day, just flying at our airport. It would be a big boom for our economy. Okay, this Skytran runs into the inner city also. It's a 30-minute ride to Atlanta, and it's air conditioned, and it rides with 4 people. So you can group on this. It's very inexpensive to build compared to high-speed rail, where you're looking at anywhere from $7 to $14 million a mile. This here is only $1 million a mile. It's very affordable, and it really works really well in inner cities here, because these things, you have bus stops that come up at any corner that you want to. And what you do is you just program in where your destination is. It's nonstop from that point where you load on to where you're going. There's no stopping because it has
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Time.
Thank you.
2 minutes. Thank you.
All right. So we need to gear ourselves for that, but we got to get the economy growing as fast as we can, but we got to be conscious of our environment here at the same time. My procedure is to get us back with the EPA, good standards with our consent decree, get all this burden off of us with environmental issues there, do sustainable growth, work with the environmental people and the developers, let's get together on this type of thing here. That's the most important thing that we can do. We can set a trend for the United States at that standpoint. But we got can't inhibit us to grow. We have to ask ourselves, are we going to grow?
Okay, Tim Kelly. You're on mute.
I will do my best to stay at 2 minutes. I promise you. I'm pasting my transportation vision into the chat so everybody can see it for reference. But look, I mean, let's start with economic mobility. Economic mobility is impossible without physical mobility, and that's become very clear to me through the course of this. So I'll get to that in a sec. But I think Chattanooga needs to get back to being a leader in electric vehicles and green tech. And as others have said, you know, what's going on at VW is a great step in that right direction. And Chattanooga's got a huge opportunity economically to become a hub for sustainability industry. So I look forward to pushing that. Transportation as a service is a big watchword now. And I think technology allows us to do a lot of exciting things with that. There's some really common sense thing we can do, like synchronizing lights and replacing four-way stops with roundabouts. Those are easy things to do that will reduce carbon emissions. As for CARTA, we need to increase ridership. We have one of the lowest ridership rates of any major city in the country. We need a new mobile app for CARTA that wouldn't be expensive or difficult. We need to begin or continue the fare-free routes after COVID is behind us. And as George said, we need to build a transit center, a transfer hub. CARTA's been asking for that for a long time. And we need to do that to make CARTA work better. There are also some innovative models. Dallas has a great model called DART, where they use smaller buses and Uber Pool to make stops around. And so, look, we have an opportunity to sort of start over and wipe the slate clean, and we might as well, and reimagine public transportation for the 21st century, incorporating all forms of transit. Back to the transit as a service model. Look, one of the reasons I got out of the car business was because it is fundamentally changing before our eyes, and we need to make sure that it's designed correctly for the future city.
Thank you very much. We're going on to Wade Hinton.
Thanks. And so look, I've shared this with the group before. I remember riding CARTA as a kid out to Hamilton Place, but also to school. And I really just don't know if, I mean, to the question around should we redesign our transportation system, I'm not sure if the routes have changed much since then. And it really is a question of, you know, certainly we think it addresses the issue of environment, but yeah, it definitely looks or addresses or impacts equitable opportunity. Right. And I know, again, there have been some improvements, but I just don't think there really feels like it. Again, ridership is down. And we have to begin to address that in a real way. So listen, I know there have been some conversations about moving to fare free. And I think that's something I'm certainly going to explore. But I think what we really need to focus on is how can we make public transit more efficient, right? So that it's a real viable choice for residents. You know, even if it was free, you know, more residents necessarily aren't going to use it because you might not necessarily get to work or to where you're trying to go on time. Speaking of work and focusing on our economic centers, when I was at Volkswagen and we had 2,000 plus employees and we made all of those investments with tax dollars, there was no bus route. There was no stop from CARTA out there. So when you talk about equitable opportunity and economic mobility, that is something we have to be more strategic on when we try to invest in these companies or bring them here for expansion. Again, we're looking at what other cities are doing, but right now I would say we have to invest more in electric vehicles. To the question, right? You know, we'll be to Tim's point. We're in the same city as Volkswagen, which will be producing one of the most sought after electric vehicles in the auto market. And I think we have an opportunity here to really leverage that. So I'm looking forward to working with Lisa over at CARTA about what this looks like. And I also hope to call on our friends out at Enterprise South to make sure that they can be a part of this. Lastly, I'll say we have to invest in more things to facilitate more walking and biking, like developing some neighborhood commercial corridors so that people can have closer access to amenities like parks and neighborhoods. And that's something, again, we'll continue to do, building on some of the work that's happened already. Thank you. You on mute, Sandy?
Sorry, I'm trying to have you not hear my dog barking. Christopher Dahl, your turn. Christopher, you're muted.
Yes, I'd like to say that CARTA is already in the process of conducting a study to deal with this issue. But also the city needs to look at having the regional planning agency looking at new suggestions for the new developments to make it easier for bus stops to be adapted to the new developments. So then at that time in the future, a bus stop can be added if needed. Also, the city can look into investing into smaller buses as well. I know too that, we need to look at maybe offering more free parking downtown too. A lot of times, there's even issues with parking there. And I think that, that public transportation can be boosted if the free parking is offered through the CARTA parking garage that they own. And then, people can get on a bus from there and go to the restaurants that are downtown and so forth. So we need to make that a little bit more accessible right there. And then I know, like I said, CARTA is already in the process of conducting a big study that they've paid for. And so, I'm just waiting to see what comes out of that study. So we as a citizens can, better see how this is going to affect us all. I know the city has also been working with EPB to promote electric vehicles by putting up charging stations, utilizing our tax dollars too, and grant funding that they have received to do so. And I think that we can continue to go down that route, working with EPB to strengthen and offer these type of programs.
All right, thank you very much. It's Monty Brule's turn.
Thank you, Sandy. As I often say, I am the first candidate in this race to say that I want to make CARTA buses free to ride for all people all the time. And I'm going to do that. That's going to be something I will address in my first 100 days. I've spoken to Lisa Marignano, the CEO of CARTA, about this, and I know that she supports my plan. We've got to make CARTA not just free, but we've got to make it better. If we just make it free, no one will ride it because it's not as good as it can be. I've looked at the systems in Indianapolis. Chicago has a new equitable transit plan. We've really got to make our system the best public transit system in America. We do need a hub. We need a hub downtown, but the hub needs to be on the river. And the reason the hub wants to be on the river is because I want to add an electric water taxi system that will go between Moccasin Bend all the way up to Chickamauga Dam. This would be similar to a water taxi system that Norfolk, Virginia has. They make a lot of money off of their system, and I know we'll make a lot of money off of our water taxi system. We need that because the changes that we want to make to CARTA are expensive, and we've got to generate revenue from new sources in order to be able to do that. I want to continue replacing the diesel buses with electric buses, which is a project that's ongoing and will be very important to adding to the sustainability of our city. And finally, I want to create more opportunities for CARTA employees to tell us what works and what doesn't work. I've had many conversations with the union that represents CARTA employees, and I think that we should have an employee who's a representative on the board, because these drivers, these mechanics, they work every day, they see the problems, and they can help us fix it. So we do need to make CARTA free. We must reroute the system so that it goes places that people want it to go and need it to go. We've got to continue adding electric buses. That's vital. And I want to add a hub on the river that will connect to, well, it will be a leading water taxi system because no other place has it. So we need an electric water taxi system as well to help us pay for this.
Thank you very much. So Aaron, now do you want to read Chris White's answer? Kim White.
Yes. Kim White says, a healthy CARTA is a key component of our approach to sustainability. Mass transit provides a healthy, environmentally sound alternative to riding alone. We will work with the CARTA board to assess improvements to routes, identify infrastructure needs, and work with our federal and state partners to provide increased funding.
All right, thank you very much. And now we are on to question 3. Please all try to stay within your time frame because we want to end on time. So the question is, how would your climate and energy plan ensure that underserved communities benefit? And we're going to start back with Monty, going the other way in the alphabet.
Thank you, Sandy. As I've already mentioned, I was a little kid growing up in Alton Park with asthma. And so I know how the environment personally affects the health of the residents of Chattanooga. So I'm committed to adopting Green Spaces sustainability plan that was just released and doing other things. One of the things that I want to do to ease the impact on Black, Brown, and low-income communities is I would like to create a TIF in South Chattanooga in Alton Park, a tax increment financing district. And we can use the proceeds from this TIF to add to EPA funds to assist with brownfield remediation. We've got a lot of acres of land along Central Avenue and Hooker Road in Alton Park. We need to take those from being brownfields to being productive areas. We can create affordable housing. We can add grocery stores to eliminate the food desert. We can build healthcare facilities using the proceeds from our TIF in Alton Park. I think that's the main thing that we need to do. I am 59 years old, and so for 50 years, Alton Park and South Chattanooga have suffered the ravages of these environmental disasters. And so enough is enough. Now is the time to stop it, and it takes money. And as your mayor, I will put you as my priority, and we will turn this around because there is an answer, there is a solution, and I will help you find it. Thank you.
Thank you. Christopher Dahl. Mute.
Yes. My plan for the city's green infrastructure initiative would address all the needs of the community. And that's how I would start, addressing the underserved communities is through starting off something as little as that. I believe it's time for the city to stop the urban sprawl and invest in all its communities, sort of ensuring that 30 to 40% of the taxes collected in that neighborhood stays in that area. It's time for the city to stop the discrimination, which has many forms like environmental discrimination and the fact that our tax dollars aren't reciprocated back into our communities. And so we need to look at ending those practices as well. You know, that's sort of what had happened in Alton Park when all the factories were moved in there. That created an environmental discrimination issue that ended up getting companies sued because they were making people sick. So we need to sort of get away from doing that. You know, we have had recently plastic companies moving into neighborhoods, and now we're having a proposed paint factory moving into neighborhoods. And people don't realize the environmental tolls on these type of factories. And so we have to look at making sure that we're not allowing factories that are going to have a detrimental effect on our citizens to come and move into our neighborhoods as well. I think that if we got away from the urban sprawl, we could then look at building up our infrastructure in our neighborhoods and then investing into our neighborhoods to where those can be built up instead of us building outward, we're building inward and upward. And so I think those would be the first ways to address those type of issues that we see.
Thank you. It's Wade Hinton's turn.
Thank you. You know, as I said earlier, when we talk about climate or energy issues, it's not solely that, right? It is also an issue of justice. And I'll share a couple of things with you. One, know that when we talk about really ensuring that underserved communities benefit, we're going to have an Office of Equity and Engagement. And this office will be tasked with making sure that every city department adopts and embeds inclusive and equitable practice throughout, period. And as mayor, I mean, one of the first things we'll do is, even as we talk about budget, we'll have an equity impact assessment that will have to go along with budget submissions, right? So this also means that when we talk about energy and climate plans, they have to be absolutely equitable in their application. And a part of, you know, how we'll accomplish this is to make sure that we're engaging residents to help us think through these policies and how we're going to actually implement those, right, to make them more sustainable. I think for so long and too long, communities have felt like the government has been doing things to them. And I think it's time for us to make sure that this city, that Chattanooga, and as mayor, I want the citizens to know that we're going to do things with you and work with you. Now, this means that we're going to be on the front lines, working directly with residents, but it's also understanding that we've got to build trust over time. And that means that we might work directly, or we will be working directly with organizations that are also on the ground making things happen every single day. Second, to that end, we know that there are organizations that are making some fantastic progress. So we'll create what we call environmental social justice grants. And those grants will be there to help support organizing work that's going to really begin to create equitable access to both clean and healthy environments. So I'm looking forward to working, Sandy, with you and these groups to help us achieve this effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Kelly. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry, I couldn't find the button there. Sorry. Thank you, Sandy. Look, environmental justice is very important to me. We know, and I certainly recognize that historically Black communities have been a dumping ground for industries in Chattanooga, and it's wrong, and it has to stop. Equity is really at the heart of all of our policies, and I've got another policy I'll paste in chat. I hope people will look, which is our plan for the Black community. But it's, I've got a business down in Alton Park. I'm very familiar with the pollution there, and look, toxic soil was used as the foundation for homes in that neighborhood, as many of you know that grew up there. And it's, I didn't, I'm the first to say, but I am painfully aware of it, and it absolutely has to stop. And there are many things we can do to address the issue, accessing Medicare funding to help, working with state and federal authorities to fund and prioritize cleanups. I have a very nonpartisan approach, so I can work with whether the Republicans at the state or the Democrats at the federal level. I don't have hangups working with any party. I'm extremely nonpartisan. I also think it's important to note that we can help residents save money through a lot of the programs that Green Spaces offers right now. Their Empower Chattanooga program is great. It helps residents weatherproof homes. And look, we've got a lot of slumlords in Chattanooga, particularly in these neighborhoods. And some of them are very well connected. And I will not put up with that sort of thing. We'll work with landlords to make needed improvements, or we'll run them off. We won't protect them, and we'll see that properties are efficient. Look, this stuff is not only terrible economic injustice, it's environmental injustice. So that has to stop as well. And I would just say in closing, since it's the last question, we've heard a lot of great ideas tonight. I think that one of the most important things you can ask yourself is who can actually execute on them and get them done. I think I've got the best skill set to do that.
Thank you. Chris Long. You're on mute.
Yes.
Yes, what was the question again?
The question is, how would your climate and energy plan ensure that underserved communities benefit?
Oh yeah, I think I've answered this question already. I was the second one to answer it.
She was asking for Chris
sorry.
Long.
It's
Chris
Chris
Long.
Long.
Oh,
You did indeed answer. Go ahead, Chris Long.
Thank you. We have an injustice going on, but we're going to have to come up with creative solutions, okay? And one of the creative solutions that I'm talking about that will make a big impact, that everybody in Chattanooga will want to get on board with this. This is something that when I was doing consulting out in Colorado Springs, I was heavily involved with the solar. I took care of all the solar things that went on out there with the El Paso County solar farm. I implemented that kind of thing. I worked with it here in Chattanooga because of our high-speed internet. I was able to monitor that and give them updates what was going on. We can do the same thing here, but what I'm talking about is a fantastic program that they found out that they can do that will make a big positive impact with Chattanooga. And it would be something that we can make a requirement that all landlords provide this, okay? And what it is that it's a cooperative effort with the development community to provide these type things. But what it is, individuals can buy solar panels, okay? And a solar panel, say like $300. So you don't have to go into rewiring your house because you're not going to be hooked to it directly. What it does is it has an ID number of that solar panel, and it goes through into the electric power board out here. And what happens is it reduces your power bill itself. So it's an investment. Now you do a 300 thing, you can get your savings back on that over a year with no problem. And what you do is you can buy as many panels as you want to and add to it. So the more panels you got, you can probably theoretically have no electric bill. Okay, it's just however you want to invest in it. And you can add one periodically whenever you want to. If you want to add one every month, you can add one. And all this goes towards your bill. It is a wonderful thing. And the city gets a piece of action with that to go into further green infrastructure programs. This right here is a good starting application. It works really well out there in Colorado. I was a part of it, and we can get this with the local business people to promote this right here. We can do an incentive with Chattanooga to do this, but it's an excellent program, and we can really knock down on our energy consumption right there. And this is going to go for people that can't, that has a fixed income.
That's
Okay.
2 minutes.
Very
Okay.
good. Thank you. George Ryan Love.
Well, I believe in unionizing all lines of work. Now, again, my background is not in the environmental movement, but in the labor rights movement. So I know in my situation where I make $10.50 an hour and my hours are cut down to 30 hours a week, I can't buy solar panels. I live in a building. So if you want to help underserved communities, you must deal with the wage and income issues. Now, it is a historical fact that Outland Park underserved communities have been dumping grounds for waste, okay? But the real money's in the private sector. It is not in taking community resource and giving it to big business. That doesn't help us out. Okay. So in any new job created, we must have strong labor rights protections. We're in a global pandemic. Let's not forget this. Okay. People are dying, and you're going to die alone of COVID-19. So any new project that we initiate must take in consideration the realities of COVID-19. Okay. Speaking of slumlords, I live in the West Side right now too. I live in Overlook. I've lived in Avondale. I've lived in slumlords houses. Trust me, I know. I lived over at Infantry, and I was buying a house rent to own. And if the pipes froze in the winter and I couldn't flush the toilet, believe me, I've been with the slumlords. Been there, done that. And I echo Mr. Kelly on this one point. We need tenants' rights associations. Okay, because since I'm not a corporate candidate, I have no allegiance to the corporate world. But any initiative must protect labor rights. Also, you can't buy solar panels on a fixed income. It's not going to happen. You can't buy solar panels if you're renting a building. You can't. Okay, so we need to meet people where they are, because the pandemic has brought people into unemployment. There are people who don't have homes, people don't have shelter, and the weather getting worse, and new storms coming like the one we had Easter. We have to protect all residents. So wage and income inequality is the heart of Mr. Love's platform.
Thank you, Mr.
Teacher
Love.
workers have to come together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I
Andrew?
do a follow-up? Is that all right for his statement there?
No,
Just
no,
a
no.
second.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You can put it in the chat.
Okay.
Where's Andrew?
Right here. How are you?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, real quick, I want to touch on something. Tennessee leads the country in nighttime tornadoes. The Chattanooga Times Free Press wrote about that. I went out with Tangeray Major Paper, and Tony Boston, and we did a tornado cleanup. We need to get state-of-the-art technology. It's out there. It's going to save lives, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we're going to get hit with another tornado. And I want to protect as many lives as possible. I know what it's like to struggle with bills and to be worried about making rent and worried about providing for my family. And I know what that's like. There's some candidates that are running for mayor that come from places of privilege and have never had to struggle economically. There's some candidates running for mayor who forgot where they came from. I will never forget where I came from. All of our donations are small, and it comes from the people. I don't have any strings attached to big corporations or Lookout Mountain money. We are for the people, by the people, of the people, and we are the people. I agree with the Green Spaces Sustainability Plan. I think it looks outstanding. I recognize that Monty Brule is very well rehearsed in this area. I think he's got a great grasp, and I would love to consult with him if I'm elected mayor about how we're going to implement as much of the Green Spaces Sustainability Plan as possible. I want to get rid of slumlords. We're going to be aggressive and proactive. We're not going to wait for people to come to us. We're going to get a task force. It's going to go after these slumlords and prosecute them, and we're going to defend people. I'm donating most of my Mayoral salary. I'm only going to take a rookie cop salary of $34,000 a year. The remaining $128,000 of my annual salary is going to go directly and transparently to helping poor people. We must govern with integrity and empathy. It's not about who's the most successful person. It's not about who's the smartest person or who has the most awards, degrees, or connections. This is about somebody who's willing to not be bribed, willing to have ethics and integrity. Because what happens is when somebody gets in there with millions of dollars of dark donations, where's their loyalty going to be? Is it going to be to the people of Chattanooga, or is it going to be to their puppet masters on Lookout Mountain? Vote for me. It's truth to power. I've been serving my country in the Marine Corps, in the State Department, and I'm going to be serving the city of Chattanooga and doing nation building right here at home, repairing our infrastructure, getting people livable wages, doing gang intervention, stopping the crime problem. I've been bringing cops together with gang members, and we've been sitting down discussing the Bible and talking about how we're going to move forward together as a city. We can do it, but it takes bold leadership, and it takes your belief that we can finally challenge the status quo and overthrow this business as usual model and cronyism. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here, here, Andrew.
And Eleanor, I want to say Eleonora, but is that right? Eleonora. I said it. I want to put an A in it. That's my trouble. You're muted.
Yes, it's Dr. Eleanor Woods.
Eleonora, thank you.
Yes, okay. So the question was, how would your climate and energy plan ensure that underserved communities benefit? So let's get back to that question. You know, the great thing about improving things like air and water quality is that everybody, regardless of their socioeconomic status, can benefit. People of all backgrounds can enjoy cleaner parks and bring kids cleaner air to breathe. We have a big asthma problem in Chattanooga, and cleaner water, which will help improve people's health and minimize healthcare costs. You know, pollution worsens and causes many health problems. We all know that. So Chattanooga can provide some loans, and we also can provide subsidies to low-income areas for things like solar panels, which not only help improve the environment, but it also helps improve affordable electricity to low-income homes, schools, and businesses. So the thing that we need to do is to learn how to collaborate. TVA has a wonderful plan. They're trying to reduce energy costs. They're educating people in the business to learn how to install different things to help cut down the cost on energy. You know, Volkswagen, you know, is going to roll out this big, nice line of electrical cars that's going to be the envy of the world here in Chattanooga. I'm very proud of those things, and we need to utilize those companies, and we need to educate the people about the opportunities, get jobs and opportunities in this community utilizing those facilities and those companies. So that's what we'll do. We'll continue to collaborate and enhance and improve on what we already have here in Chattanooga, and we're going to make sure that these underserved communities are not left out as they often are. And I agree, get rid of the slumlords. They don't take care of their homes. They don't take care of anything. And these people are living in houses that are just deplorable. They're not good enough for rats to live in. So we need to work on that, getting rid of the slumlords. I agree. And bringing in houses where people, that humans can live in, and we can feel good about it and reduce the high cost of energy, reduce our carbon footsteps here in footprints in Chattanooga, work with companies and other agencies like you're on to work together to create better plans. Thank you.
Thank you.
Didn't record tonight. I kept trying to.
It is being recorded.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll send it out. You all will get your copy. And Kim White's answers?
Let
You're
me
muted.
pull them up. All right, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
We will work with our nonprofit and other governmental partners to ensure that capital projects address resiliency in an equitable manner that considers the preferences and needs in all areas of the city. Increased investment in CARTA will benefit underserved communities while reducing energy consumption and greenhouse gases. We will work closely with EPB and other organizations to encourage the use of alternative energy sources and support home repairs that reduce energy consumption. Not only can this help people afford to stay in their homes, it saves natural resources year after year.
Well, okay. With that, we are done, I think, for this evening. I thank you all. I hope that you have gotten some ideas from all of our little speeches, 2-minute speeches. And every one of you did really well on that. I hope that many people who are listening in will copy the chat so that they can have all the information that's in that chat. And I just want to say that I hope also that everybody has realized that environmental things are not about the birds and the bunnies. It's really the kinds of things that we've been discussing tonight. And I hope that we have enlightened a few folks. I'm sure we have. And I thank you all for being people with integrity that really care about this and took the time to be with us tonight. So with that, we're signing off, I guess.
Thank you, Sandy.
Appreciate it. And I would just like to state that if anybody wants to look more into our stormwater issues, they should reference Stormwater Ordinance 12881.
Thank you, Sandy.
Yes, take care, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you, Sandy.
Chris Long for mayor.com.